Howdy chaps, and we're back. If you followed up in the last videos, you noticed we put in a new corner and a new end of the tail up panel. I am suffering a bit of a problem where I appear to be welding to tissue paper because it's been so heavily hammered. But we can work with that. It's just luck of the draw, really. But the corner we put in is all done and looking lovely. The task for today is actually put in a new boot floor section to get rid of all of that loveliness that's in there, and I use that word loosely. We're going to attempt to put in this piece, which I have actually never put this one in. I put in a Rare Spares one in my brother's Landau a couple of years ago, and it was just that top section, or their version, so I've never... Well, actually back then you couldn't get this, so this is a fairly new piece. Stand up, big count it. Okay, apparently you're going to the floor. Stay. Well, it's there now. So yeah, I on the one I did, I had to actually make the lip where the fuel tank goes in, but this seems to be someone's attempt at making a replacement piece for a factory like section, because actually the factory piece looks exactly like that. So I don't know what this one's going to be like. I hope it fits, I really do. Well, it can't be any worse than what's in here. The only thing that bugged me was they didn't... I only just noticed it just then, but where they put the actual bolts in, they didn't actually press in the circles. There's like recesses around where they go. That's just me being picky on a wanting it to be super original. And they didn't bend up the lips around the edges, which, once again, that's me being picky. But I'm thinking, if you're going to make an original piece, at least go to all of the effort to make it look 100%. But you know, I'm fussy. I'm sorry. That's just who I am. Yeah. So that's the only thing that bothers me is about this panel is they didn't bend up that lip or that lip. I mean, I could probably do it. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's see how much of a pain this is to get in. But it looks okay. Looking and fitting are two different things. So, and the fun task of trying to get off, grind out these MIG welds, because you can't drill them out. Well, you can, but you will be there for a long time, and you'll probably go through multiple sets of drill bits. It took me a while to figure out what the hell was going on here. So what I think's happened is somebody's welded this in. This car's been hit on this side really hard, like really hard, and then somebody was doing rust on it, and I'm thinking it wasn't pulled straight or something like that before they started, and then the next person's got it, and he's been at it with a set tool and pushing it out to where it probably should be, and I don't know if he's made it better or worse, but I know for a fact he shouldn't have smacked the quarter panels at the very ends. Maybe he thought that the style line goes to the ends, but they don't. Not on coupes anyway. But yeah. Anyway, enough chit chat, patty whack, give the dog a bone. Barf. I think we should just get cracking into this. It should be fairly straightforward. I'm just going to have to belt sand all the spot welds, and then in theory that should pull out with a bit of jiggling it a bit. Anyway, so my section actually went in quite well. I should have talked about that a little bit more. I actually ended up putting a piece in here, which I didn't get to the other day, and weld along under here. So this whole section, so I put a seam of weld in that groove around there. It just ended up being a bit nicer, because I could plug weld it, but then you got to sit there and grind it. Whereas if you use just a seam, whoops, pan up a little bit. If you just seam, you could just sit there with one of the roll locks and it just grinds it quite smooth. Unfortunately, it's a little bit what I'm welding to isn't exactly super crash hot. But like I've said in my other videos, I reckon you could open a massive can of worms with this one, and you could be there for a very long time rectifying the issues. So I'm just going to do what I was told to do, which is the back section, and then unfortunately I'll have to give the car back because obviously we need to get other cars done as well. So I'll do what I'm here to do, and do it to my best ability, and hand it back. So yeah, we're going to crack on in this boot floor section, get that done in today's video hopefully. So keep on watching. I don't really want this to become a sponsored video, but I'd love to be sponsored by Ryobi. But I gotta tell you that their rattle guns, I don't know the full specs on it, but holy moly, they have some serious manpower. That's some grunt in them. It's let's put it this way, it took, and that's with a little baby battery, it took no effort to get that wheel off. Just whap, done. Yeah, also I was using this same exact rattle gun the other day, because I got a 6-cylinder that come out of the XY that I was pulling apart to scrap, and it had no issues undoing the head bolts. Took them off with a pull of the trigger, it was a bop, gone. So that is a really good rattle gun. Just put the nuts back on so I don't lose them. And boy, has it got some grunt. I mean, as you can see that I've only had it a week or two, and I've done, a couple of weeks. I bought it when I was doing the XB suspension, and yeah, if you're at home use, and you don't want to wreck your hands and stuff, I cannot emphasize how much you should own one of these. Just rips it, so that's some torque, it is. Yeah, so come on Ryobi, you know you want to sponsor me. Do it. I'm joking, but you know, if you felt that way inclined, I wouldn't stop you. But yes, I cannot say enough good things about the it's even got slow. Yeah, so go buy yourself one if you got the setup for the batteries. You'll never regret it. But I put that down there because actually I'm in here and I want to get out. Somebody's already been here. Wow. Somebody's been here before me. And yes, somebody's been here straightening up the bent rail on the car. So, actually, I will admit, this is not the first time I've seen them. All these old Falcons have been smacked to the bum. They all bend right there. Useless trivia, may never need, but if you're going to look at one you think it's a bit bent, go under the car and just look right here, just in front of the bump stop. They always bend right there. I don't know what it is, why they always go there, but I guess because you got basically the leverage action, and that's fairly strong through there, and that's the weakest point, weirdly enough. And yeah, you can see that back floor where the edge of the boot floor go, the petrol tank, so that's going to have to be bent going back that way too, but that's not my problem. I've got to drill out or find these swap plug welds that are through here, so that's going to be fun. And the magic just keeps on keeping on. The more you look, the more my eyes hurt. So I'm gonna stop looking. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. I was just talking about how good that rattle gun is. Just unbelievable. They're pretty cheap too. I'm sure that wasn't much money. Yeah, go buy yourself one if you want to actually not break your wrists. And speaking as somebody who actually has carpal tunnel syndrome in the hands and has nerve damage, I would also say that's one of the sad things about being a panel beater. You will screw your knees and your hands if you choose that career path. So yeah, if I had one of those years ago, I would have been much happier. So I should have bought one ages ago. Anyway, cracking on. I'll catch you up in a minute, probably when I've got the boot floor section out. So I've drilled out what I can do from under here. I've cleaned it up with my plastic wheel. I felt where the end of the floor pan ends about here. There's a seam, so I know that these spot welds here aren't actually holding the floor pan in. I reckon it actually ends about here, so I did the one next to it so I can make sure that I got it. Unfortunately over here I'm going to belt sand these ones because I'm thinking when it got crushed in the bum it actually split those spot welds open, and whoever was repairing it welded them back up with a gasless MIG, so I can't drill them out. But these are all separated. You can see I've got to the rust in between them, so that's progressing along quite nicely. Yes, more and more. I almost didn't want to show you this of what I've discovered, but I almost have to. It's amazing what is hiding under a good, well, eventually probably what would have been a really nice paint job. It really makes me sad seeing that. Yeah, so it's one of those things, the longer you look, the more upsetting you get. And it doesn't get much better. Turn around and over this side. Oh dear. Oh well. All I can say is, at least my work will be good. If I can get up. Yep, there we go. Just, yeah. So, crawling under, I'm out now in the boot now. We've got two hammers. Hammer time. This is sand left over from sandblasting. I've got to be super careful with hammering because my wrist is like glass these days. I can throw it, it can crap out on me at a moment's notice. So yes, what we're trying to do is, well, somebody missed with the spot weld at day one. So we drill out these spot welds because that's the effectively the top of the chassis rail. Chassis rail runs along here. I've already been down and around inside the wheel arch as you've just seen. So in theory the rest of it's done from in here. So we'll have to grind out those plugs and those ones along here and sort out what happened there. Anyway, moving right along, let's crack on. So I'm in the process of getting this out, chaps. Me and the belt sander have become quite acquainted, getting all the welds through here out. So there's a couple here, and I've obviously done the ones in there. And my curiosity was like, alright, how well attached are these welds? Well, it would appear that one didn't quite work. So, obviously that did work because it's on the edge and there. But, old Mr. Chisel went clean through that one. So obviously it's on the top panel but not the bottom. It's going to be a little bit annoying because that's been cut and welded along there. But I was just curious to see how well attached it really was, and my guesstimate of I don't think very much was correct. Fun. Alrighty, after much pulling, tugging and squeezing, it is out. Got a little bit caught up in the front end there, but no big issue. And I think if you can have a calculated guess as to what was required to get those welds undone, a whopping 3 belt sands. They were just sitting on the top. Now, so it's pretty straightforward. I might actually re-weld that cut there that somebody's put in with a grinder when they did that piece. So I'll re-weld that and grind that smooth. Clean the top of these rails clean all up around here and try to do my best up through in there and under there and clean that up. I'll have to just grind those flat, and maybe I'll put plug weld holes in between each one of those welds, and that way the new panel isn't having to deal with old stuff. I don't know if I'll get it all done today. The day is just racing away from me. Yeah, as long as, in most rust repairs, the bit that takes the longest is literally doing this, getting the old stuff out, and doing it reasonably carefully. Yeah, so we're making good progress. I'll probably wrap up this video with that welded up and all of this ground and cleaned, I reckon. And that'll wrap out the week quite nicely, I think. Right, I've cleaned up that, re-welded those two splits that were in there. Well, they weren't splits, they were an angle grinder slice from whoever took that piece off. I've cleaned up all my phalanges. I'm going to spray some copper spray on that in a second. I've even been underneath that panel. And I'm going to test fit this new floor piece in and see how good these really are. So I'll catch up in a second once I put this in. Alrighty, I think I'm going to have to rate this repair panel as replacement panel actually quite high. I think that's plenty acceptable for a replacement panel. I would have said that almost went straight in with a little bit of tweaking here and there, you know, with a hammer and just tap it in a couple of spots and clamps and stuff. I would have actually said that pretty much went straight in. Obviously needs a little bit of work through here, because that's what that side looks like, so that needs to be tapped out. I won't do that until I've got the new back panel on, in case that ends up in the wrong spot. It's not too bad through here. It is sitting on the floor, on the rails. Clamped, seems to be okay. I would have said maybe touch high here, but that could be this car being slightly off. I know the rail isn't 100%, but for the most part, from there, around there, pretty good. Maybe that needs to be a bit softer of a radius. I would have loved to have seen the ends of these flared up like the factory ones. That would have been, because I know the factory one, these have got a little flare on the end of them. Not there, but there. But that's just me being picky. So yeah, I would have loved to have seen flares around there, circles pressed in there, and a little flare on there. And then the panel would have been absolutely perfect. But for a direct fit as a replacement floor pan section, I would have said that is money well spent. I think you'd struggle to get a piece as good as that. Now, you might think, oh my god, it's too low, but I am not going to blame this panel on that. I'm going to blame this panel on that. The panel that came out was all over the shop like a mad woman's breakfast. I actually think, looking from underneath, I reckon this panel here is too high. I know these panels don't... The factory floor has a fold in it, like it actually goes down and kicks up at the end, like just like that. So that's pretty close to identical to factory. But these panels that they make do not have that same kick in them, which they should, but they don't. It's just a flat fold. So what I'm thinking about doing here, because I think I'll be opening Pandora's box if I was to try and remove that and drop it back down. I think that would be silly. I think I'm going to just run a grinder straight across this edge, cut this flange off. Once it's out of the way, I'm going to run a texture line along here and cut that off, and then I'm going to cut a piece of steel that's just about that width, 1 inch flange, and I'm going to weld it all the way along there. I'm going to go across here and then do my plugs across the top of there, and it should have that same curve downwards in it. And then obviously all the holes through here to weld this to the top, the bottom of the chassis, to the top of the chassis rail, and then get that in. There isn't actually that much welds in here. You've got a few through here, down here, a couple here, and then you got the ones on the inside there, and they'll tap out and seal up quite nicely. And then when you put the new panel on here, you got a couple through there. So you got down there, across there, around there, down there, nothing through here, except here. But yeah, as a product review of this, I can't remember. I know we bought it off eBay, but I think it's the same one you can get from Mr. Astle, and I have to rate that fairly high. I think that's a good fitting panel. I think whoever made that is good at their job. So if the person who sees this and actually makes the panel, you did a good job. Yeah, it's quite nice, I have to say. It fits well, and I've fitted a lot of panels. So next week I will rectify this issue. It's not my, it's whoever put this one in, put it in the wrong spot. Probably because when they put it in, the car was bent, and then the last person who got it straight in the car, and it was all over the shop. So now it's all straight, it's in the wrong spot. As you can see right there, it's still probably getting on 10mm too high, and up here. But yes, they never fold these correctly anyway, so that is an issue you run into them on a good day. Normally when you put this one in the right height up here and here, you can sort of get away with it. You can belt these down enough that it's livable, but that's just so wrong, it's not even funny. Can't get away with belting that one down. We have to cut that and weld that. But yeah, if you're going to replace your boot floor, I would strongly recommend you buy that panel, because that is a good piece. Very good. That'll wrap up this video. It's been a long day getting all the crap off. Hope you enjoyed this week on the Landau. Probably see a bit more next week. We've still got a lot to go. I'll do a couple of videos on the weekend of tinkering with the XB, but it won't be a huge amount of stuff. And thank you all for watching.